All right, good crowd here. Good to see everyone. Thanks for the intro. My name's Kristen Durham, as she said. I'm the VP of Startups at Zendesk. Also startup advisor, angel investor. I've been at the company 6 years, the first 4 as chief of staff to our founder, CEO, and then the last 2 building the Zendesk for Startups program and the related business unit. Which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. And if you don't know who Zendesk is, we are a customer service and experience CRM company founded in 2008 in Europe, moved to the Valley, grew up here alongside other great startups like Uber, Airbnb, Lyft. And really those companies in many ways spurred our growth forward. It really spurred our product roadmap, the way that we would land and expand companies forevermore. And those relationships early on, they were so easy because it was CEO to CEO selling. We were right alongside of them. But flash forward to about $200 million in ARR, and the company decided we wanted to make an intentional move towards the enterprise. So land and expand had been going great, but we wanted to make that push. And as a part of that push, from my vantage point as chief of staff, I saw the need to continue investing in those early stage startups so that we didn't just put all of our eggs in one basket, but that we continue to grow and nurture the companies that would go on to become great. And we saw that because we were failing in some ways, right? I remember a hot shoes startup company. They were under 100 employees. They came in inbound. They were buying. They were growing. But we were failing to engage with them strategically. And so over time, as they grew, we didn't know their pain points. We treated them as one of tens of thousands of SMBs, just another SMB, which was not the way that we were going to grow going forward. To recreate that experience of like the founder to founder selling and being really close to the companies that were going to transform what we needed to do. We had to take in a different approach. And so that's really what I'm here to talk about today. So when you think about selling to early stage startups, the first lesson is obvious. You have to ask yourself the question, what is it that you're setting out to accomplish? How is it that you want to sell to startups differently than the rest of your customer base? For us, it was simple. We knew that our opportunity, but also the risk, was selling to a startup like just another SMB. And so this was really the problem that we set out to try to solve. From that as the base, we went forward and, did a lot of hopefully pretty obvious things. We thought about how we would target these customers, finding the channels that they were in and really trying to drive growth alongside of that. Another component of that early strategy we thought about was how are we going to acquire? We were selling startups just the same thing. We were selling everybody on the website. And so we took time to really take stock in what was going to be necessary to be compelling to them, different from what we were doing elsewhere in the business. We had to start rethinking through how we serve. We didn't want them to be just another account, and we really wanted to create a unique experience and anchor it in a sales team and a success team that was serving these customers differently. So this was a key component for how we were going to think about different sort of selling. And then finally, the nurture. There were all the things that we wanted to do to get them in the front door, but then a whole host of work that needed to be done to expand them, to drive lifetime value over time. And because for us, we are judging ourselves on how we treat startups differently than an average SMB. We really anchor on these metrics where we can drive conversion rates higher, where we can drive average deal size higher. And so whatever it might be for your business, find those key metrics to anchor on and build them into the part of the strategy in the way that you are, gut checking along the way, whether you're actually accomplishing what you set out to. So that's lesson number 1 for us. Kind of diving in a little bit more, this compelling offer became something, really important. I think right now, all of us know that selling is hard. This is a climate where, getting dollars from customers is harder. But sometimes, we see a startup, they raise a huge fundraising round, and the immediate reaction is to go sell them a bunch of software immediately, which can be the right move. But I think in our business model, what we see is that there's a risk of trading off big bookings for tomorrow by instead taking small bookings today. And so as we thought about how we're selling and the way that we really want to anchor startups on the types of products and the functionality and the business value that they're going to get from us, that's really where we hunkered down and said, what does this compelling offer need to be? Full transparency, we were completely wrong from the beginning. We started in all of the wrong spots. We were giving away some of our software for free. We had a discount, but it was entirely the wrong products and plan types for what a startup needed to be successful. We were selling them something, we were encouraging them to use something that didn't have basics like automation and great reporting, things that were really critical for a company that was going to scale. And so when we took stock and said, what do we need to do differently? We need to really get into that better product anchoring. So we did that. We reconfigured to provide our full suite of products. We reconfigured to provide a higher plan type too, so that folks would get the kind of functionality we knew they needed. And median deal size went up. It went up almost overnight, which was incredible, because finally we were giving companies and we were telling them to buy the thing that we knew they actually needed to be successful. A funny thing happened too, though. We saw that while median deal size increased, it increased to exactly $218 MRR. So we had created this other anchoring, which was, I'm only going to need 2 seats, and that's what I'm going to need forever. And in reality, what we wanted to challenge was, no, use more of the product, put it throughout the company, make sure you really understand how much business value you can get out of that. And that motivated us to move to this 6 months, all-you-can-eat, 100% off offer that we have now through the Zendesk for Startups program. It was a pretty big jump to get some folks, leadership in the company aligned around giving that much away for free. But in doing so, we were able to drive the median deal size up again. By layering other program components, we were able to really drive usage and activation, and importantly, ADS along the way, conversion rates along the way. And so much so that now, we're thinking about how we take some of this same model and deliver it to mid and late stage startups and even perhaps in the private equity world. I do really encourage you to think about, if you're selling to startups, how can that offer be different? How should it be different? Because you have flexibility here. You don't have to change the entire product. You don't have to change the entire pricing. But there are ways that you can think about how you position, how you bring resources together to make it really compelling for what a scaling startup is going to need. That's a bit different than perhaps your SMB customer or an enterprise customer that you're selling to. All right, lesson number 3. For us, qualifying to drive an outcome really meant that we had to be intentional about who were the startups we were trying to reach and how were we trying to reach them. So we kind of had this little bit of a heuristic, kind of a magic quadrant of qualifying, where we thought about, okay, are we trying to reach super early stage, like unfunded startups? Do we want to reach those that have capital? Do we want to make it hard to access the resources in the program we're creating? Or do we need to gate it because we need to make sure this payment pays off? And so over time, we kind of worked our way across this quadrant, really starting at the beginning that's saying, we want to drive quantity. And so we did the things that would drive quantity. We essentially had our program offer. You could fill in a form on the website. If you answered appropriately, boom, here comes a welcome email and a discount code, and you're off to the races. Which again, I said was great for quantity, but we watched these cohorts over time, and they weren't converting very well. And realistically, it looked a lot like our SMB business, which we decided we were not out to try to recreate. And so then we raised the qualifying criteria. We actually said, if you don't have traction, if you don't have funding, this isn't the program for you. It's not it's not who we're building for. And so we raised the qualifying requirements. at the same time, because we were becoming more generous, we also had to start enforcing that more. And so while we took a little bit of extra effort and expense to make sure we were really enforcing the criteria of the program, what we saw over time was we did compromise quantity for a little bit, but out of the end, we got quantity. And then a happy sort of medium space was, as we built channel, we found a way to also like get high quality lead flow, which also was high quantity and high quality lead flow. I'll talk a little bit more about there, but really we saw this play out over time too, that as we changed the way we were growing the program, you can see we took a dip in the number of companies coming to us qualified in, but we well surpassed that on the new booking side. And so qualifying actually, for us made a lot of difference as we shifted to try to serve that hungry, high potential startup. This was an important place for us to start putting that discipline in. All right, lesson 4, building partnerships to build your funnel. So at Zendesk, we had a lot of partnerships. You're building a lot of them too. For us, those are with BPOs, system integrators, other technology providers. But when you're selling to early stage startups, you have the opportunity to create a different kind of channel, and one that is deep with influencers and really resonates with this audience in particular. And that is venture capital funds, accelerators, incubators, and other ecosystem partners. And so if you're thinking about an early stage startup strategy, I would highly encourage you to think about how can you use the influencers of founders and early stage startups to your benefits? How can you align the programs and your selling motions and the support that you provide to startups to drive value back to their portfolios? They will engage. Some of these are more marketing-oriented ways to work together, anchored in content. Others are really deal sharing, but don't forget that you have this other channel available, and it's one that can be highly qualified and highly productive for you. All right, lesson 5, investing in customer success. Couldn't be more important, I think, for us. And again, anchoring back to this fact that we really try to drive a land and expand motion. Expansion and lifetime value really is only driven through companies feeling like they're getting real value out of your product, but also they're getting value out of the relationship that they're building with you. So we approached this in a few ways because we knew we couldn't afford to put one-on-one engagement with everyone. And so we built a set of scaled resources alongside of that one-to-one motion that would be really meaningful for companies. So the first was office hours. This was an opportunity for us as companies are just onboarding to help them through that journey. We're able to service 3 times as many companies, and I hope in the future even more through this sort of group onboarding session where you hear from peers, and you learn from peers, while you learn from us at the same time. Alongside of that, training. We have a lot of training at Zendesk already. Training's applicable up and down the scale. And when we thought that this would be only kind of for our scaled motion, it turned out that many of our largest customers, the largest converting startups, were actually using training in addition to the one-on-one resources we were providing them. And so sometimes it's an easy reskin. You don't have to create a lot, but really focusing training on those things that are going to matter, I think can really pay off. One-on-one success, we all want to give it. I think the important thing here is to see, are the metrics supporting your move to it? For us, we were able to drive improved conversion rates, and importantly, we were able to drive average deal size in a way that we could justify continuing to hire and build this team. And for the highest potential among our customers, this is a real way that we differentiate and build a relationship that's going to last over time. And finally, community. We built it on Slack. It's an incredible channel for not just your startup to help others, but for you to really enable peer-to-peer learning and collaboration. And finally, lesson number 6, it's simply to get over how to get started. We wrung our hands for a long time about what do we do, where do we start? We had a bit of a strategy, and the simplest thing I can say here is just get started. you can go the route of this simple kind of marketing way to reach startups. Put up a website, see the kind of response that you get. Over time, it can grow into a more standalone business unit as what we've done. But I think the important thing is simply to get started, because the opportunity with startups is big, and we should all go out and help and support them and see them as a part of our business long term. So finally, just to quickly wrap up, 6 things. 1, articulate that strategy. Say how what you're going to do with startups is different from the rest of the vision, from the rest of the business, and go after that vision. Number 2, make sure you create a compelling offer, something that they won't get just off the street. Make sure it really resonates to their needs. Number 3, qualifying to drive this outcome. You have to have a payback of something like this, and so making sure you're working with the kind of companies that will have that payback is critical. Building partnerships, look for those new and orthogonal ways to do so. Invest in success, and finally, like I said, just get started.